Story time. Story time. Welcome into story time. Story time. Yeah. Enjoy.
Hey guys, welcome back. Man, I don't have good lighting today. I don't have all my equipment as always, and there's no outside lighting whatsoever right now. So, we just gonna work with what you got. My hair looking cute, and y'all can't really tell like that because the lighting is absolutely horrible. But anyways, today's episode of Chasing Yanta Tania, episode 2, a little recap. We did a whole background of where I'm from, how did I get to America in a way, why, and why chasing anything is a part of my life or whatever, and up to working in corporate America, how that was like, and then quitting. And I think I left off where I turned in my resignation letter 3 weeks in advance. And yeah, I remember that, I don't know if I mentioned in the last one, how, my mom was working at the same company. HR found out, they called her, she called me, and she was like, I heard that you're quitting the job. And I'm like, yeah. And then I don't remember what exactly I told her, but I do know she wasn't very happy about it. Obviously, she told the pastor, who was a pastor at the time, at the church I was attending. And obviously, she told everyone else. And I remember him calling me to talk to me, I guess to talk me out of it, but I had already quit by this point. And I remember him saying something that really, in a way, launched my prayer life fight like never before. He said, and I quote, that big decisions like that, I shouldn't be taking them alone. I should be consulting people like himself and my mom. And I thought to myself, and I don't remember what I said, but I do remember feeling, in a way, controlled, and feeling like I needed to prove a point when I got off the phone with them. And then after that, my sister wasn't happy about it, and she said some things. And I remember feeling like I need to prove all these people wrong, especially the pastor, because, like, who are you to tell me who I need to talk to regarding what God said? Especially given the fact that it wasn't a decision that I made lightly. I took months and months and months praying and researching and feeling like I was getting the same answer. Everywhere I go was talking about taking a leap of faith and leaving what, you're comfortable with, and etc., etc. And obviously I was, I don't have kids, I'm not married. So, and I was staying with my mom. So it was financially not, while it wasn't the best decision, but it wasn't like immediately I was gonna be responsible for kids and etc. However, I was helping pay bills, so it would have been difficult. But the whole time when I did it, I thought once I did my act of obedience, the next thing was gonna come immediately, right? So after that, interaction with the pastor and feeling like everybody was against me, I didn't really tell much people. I didn't tell my friends because I already felt like everybody was against me and I didn't want to appear stupid, right? I think maybe that night or that week, I think I just was like, went into reading the Bible and getting into my words, or listening to sermons about walking by faith and being led by the Holy Spirit and hearing the voice of the Holy Spirit for myself and things like that. And I just remember I started digressing a lot at church, and digressing in a sense where I no longer had the energy to, I didn't no longer want it to be there because I felt like he was the enemy at the time. and and like, what did I do? I just know, like, I only showed up when I had something to do, because, like, by this point it's like I'm devastated. Like, I just quit a job that I practically, felt looked good on paper, and I did this trusting that like, okay, so let's put it that way. When I take that leap of faith, that was my first big step of taking a leap of faith in that sense. But before that step, my prayer had been for God to speak or prove himself, or I was going to leave the whole church thing, because it felt like, yeah, I go to church, yeah, I serve a lot of church. People talk about you, people hate on you, people this, people that. You give a lot, they give nothing back. But what is it serving me? Because it was around a season where I felt like everybody else's life was working, mine wasn't. I wasn't even able to go to college, and culture education is very important, and career and things like that are like important, is what makes you look good, and I wanted to look good too. And I felt like I had nothing going on for me, and the one job that looked good on paper to everybody was killing me. So it's either God hate me or I'm doing something wrong. And I think it was a pivot moment for me to decide it's either God is real or he's not. And if he is, what is it that I'm doing wrong as to why he doesn't let things work in my life? And how do I fix it? And if I'm going to take a leap of faith and obey, then things going to work out. And he's going to tell me what to do, and I'm going to be able to pursue. So, yeah, I quit, and, just feeling like, okay, now I'm going to get something, and I'm applying, and I'm applying for jobs, and I'm applying for jobs, and I'm applying for jobs. No one is contacting me. Absolutely no one. And I remember that was the first time I decided to start journaling again. I had this brown, it felt like suede journal with a little paw on it that one of my close friends gave me a long time ago. I seldom used it, and that around that time there was so much going on in my mind that I needed to write them down. I was also, I think, at that time involved in a situationship where both me and the person, I think we both were going through this difficult period of our lives, and I think we connected that way. So that was the only thing, I guess, that was keeping me not losing it. But then that situation was also like weird, so I was praying about that. All my friends were getting married, engaged. It just seemed like everything was working for everybody except for me, and I just wanted a piece of the things that was working out. That's it. I didn't want nobody else's stuff. I just wanted to know locate where mine was, and who has access to it, and who's gonna give it to me. And by all means necessary, right? So I'm gonna take a leap of faith. I'm gonna be obedient, and something's gonna work out, right? So, anyways, I started journaling a lot by this point, and start reading my Bible a lot at this point. I start watching a lot of sermons, and a lot of them just all were talking about like kind of like getting your mind right, and understanding that sometimes things doesn't work out because you're trying to force your idea or your will over God's will and God's purpose. So that's when I started really hearing about purpose, and it's like, wait a minute. So what is my purpose, So is it that maybe I am supposed to be following, so helping people? So I started changing the jobs I was looking for. I started looking for jobs in like social working environment, shelters, and things like that. I've had many interviews, never getting a call, man. Y'all, it was hard, and I don't remember how long that lasted. Maybe about 9 months before I got my next job. I just remember there were days like I would be on the floor literally crying, like literally crying. And obviously I didn't have a lot of money saved, and obviously I'm using my savings. Obviously I'm trying to pay bills, whatever little bills I did have, trying to hold on to my car, trying to hold on to my integrity, try to hold on to, I'm pretty sure I've been praying for months regarding this, and I'm pretty sure all the signs were pointing to taking a leap of faith, And but it was also on that time around that time where I started doing things like being I don't know if dramatic is the word or intentional about like trying to hear. Like, does God really speak? So I would do like things like wake up a Saturday morning for time to should be like, God, what should I wear today? And I would look like blue or red. Whatever I felt like came to my head first, that's the one I would pick. Or God, should I go to the park? If I feel like no, like as if like there was a anxious about it, then I was like, okay, mm, maybe I'm not supposed to go, so I would stay. Like little things like that. I started doing little things like that, and I became very intentional, and then it became a part of my everyday. Um, and then I would, if I felt like, let's say I asked God something and I felt like the answer, I would go back and journal it, how the experience was, what did I think I felt or hear or whatever the case is, any sign of potentially him talking. And as I start doing these little things and little things starting to be like true, like for example, I think it's also around the time like there's a friend of mine who lost her mom, and I thought I felt in my spirit that God was encouraging. Like I kept thinking about the girl and what happened. I thought I felt in my spirit to reach out to her. And I'm like, man, me and the girl is not even close. We don't talk like that. She's probably just gonna look at me crazy, you know? So then, but I did it anyways. And I did, and she received it well and was like, oh well, that's not what I was expecting. So as things like that started happening, or like for example, I would have like a really bad dream about someone, and I'll be like, and I'll wake up in the middle of the night, I'll pray about it, and I'll skip thinking about it, and I'll try to let go of it, and then I'll go to the person and tell them like, yeah, this and that happened, I just kept thinking about it. It's like, girl, you don't know what has been happening. X, Y, and Z was God who sent you. So it was like, wait a minute. So God, maybe God does speak, and maybe he does show some things, and maybe, whatever. So it was around the time, eventually I ran into someone I knew, I've known for years, maybe, I don't know, about 9 months later, who was working in the realm of what I was interested in. And they told me they were looking for somebody with my integrity who need to start right away, and I just felt like that was the answer. So I started working for them, and let's see, it was great. I learned a lot about myself because I had to hire people, I had to interview people, I had to run a whole office. I learned a thing about business. I learned when I applied hard work, how the employees, how they respect me, how they appreciate me. I learned that, but it felt like working for them. There was a lot of I don't even know what the word is. Like there was a lot of, like we were on the same page, and there was some way the way business was running I wasn't agreeing with, that wasn't feeling right to me. And as I was praying about these things, I just didn't know what to do because I didn't feel like God was saying anything about it. But as the days goes, a lot of changes were happening. I wasn't getting paid on time. There was always an issue with finance, and I just decided I was gonna work as unto God. Like I believed that God led me to work for this person, and I was gonna give my best. And I felt like, maybe this was the answer, and I was gonna work my butt off, work until the top, and finally I would be proud of something that I'm doing that is worthy, that is purposeful. And that's not how it ended. It ended with never getting paid on time, months, sometime without getting paid. I worked for them, I think, for exactly a year, to the point where I ended up losing my car because I wasn't getting paid. I wasn't able to handle it anymore, and I was so behind. And they knew this, and eventually my car got evicted literally maybe about 3 weeks before my birthday, on my birthday month. I remember that day so clearly. I was sitting on the couch, and I was sitting on the couch, and what happened? I was sitting on the couch, and my mom was supposed to go to work. I'm assuming that must have been a Sunday because I was home, and she was going to work, and she was using my car, I guess at that time. I'm not sure why. And she walked outside and was like, "Oh," she come back inside. "What happened? Where's your car? What happened to your car?" and thinking to myself, like, what are you talking about? And then all of a sudden I remember, yeah, I haven't been paying my car. So they probably repoed it. So eventually I called, my phone is talking to me. Eventually, I think I called around and I was able to find where my car was. Of course, they couldn't just give it back to me. And she knew about that, but there was nothing that could be done. I remember there was one particular night, there was something due, and I did not get paid. And I felt so devastated, that so betrayed. Like, how could you give so much to someone that but you care about? How could you pour into their business and they not even do their due diligence to make sure you're taken care of? Like, and I remember not knowing what to do, not wanting to go home, trying to figure out what can I do financially to handle my business, to not lose. It must have, I don't know what it was that I needed to pay. I just know I was devastated. I just know that I almost, because I was paying the car insurance, I think, and I was attached to my mom, so I had to make sure that wasn't affecting her. I remember there were a time where it's like I was supposed to also pay the light bill, and I didn't have the money, and paying that was an issue on time. That created a whole issue. Um, and I had to borrow. It was crazy, and I never told anyone that this I wasn't getting paid. It wasn't until like after all this was happening, and I'm looking at God, I'm like, you asked me to work for this person. What's going on? Yes, I grew. Yes, I learned a lot about myself. Yes, I learned a lot about business. Yes, I learned a lot about my loyalty and my integrity. And yes, I work enthusiasm to you, but this doesn't make any sense. Like, I'm losing so much. And then eventually there were certain things that were happening that I didn't agree with legally, that I felt like if I continue to work for her, I feel like I will be responsible legally, and I can't afford that. So I'm like, God, and when my 1 year came, I'm going to resign. And I can resign in peace knowing that I gave my best and I lost more than I gained. Um and yeah. So I did. I wrote my resignation letter, and I didn't want her to feel like I was letting her down. Granted, I was suffering, but I didn't want her to feel like I was letting her down, because there was so many stories about people who came to work for her, and there was always something happening. So, anyways, long story short, I resigned. I got paid a chunk of money, but it was my fault. I didn't calculate how much I was supposed to get paid, but I was certain and clear that when I was leaving, she said the rest would come. Weeks came, nothing. Weeks came, and I kept reaching out to her. She wasn't responding. And then she said something to me. I don't remember exactly what the text said, but from my understanding, it was as if like she felt like I was harassing her for something she didn't owe me. And I was like, what? Wow. And man, that just broke my heart. And that's when, and around that time, I needed the money because I was handling something, and I guess I borrowed and I needed to give it back, and it was just crazy. And I finally told people, my mom and whoever, and it was like, why didn't you say anything all this time? And it's like, why did I feel the need to, like, protect her? And maybe it was less about her, but more about the fact that I thought this is what God led me to. But and it, I'm pretty sure it was, because there's many places in the Bible where God lead them to difficult time where they have to serve. Like Joseph being the perfect example, when he had when after he was sold to slavery, and he was working at his master's house, and there go his wife accusing him of things he didn't do, and being sent to prison for years and having to serve in prison. But being there developed so much in him that when it was time for him to go back to the palace and lead Egypt, it was almost easy, because when he was in prison, understand that he was in charge of the prisoners there. So in a way, yeah, he was in a hard situation, but I feel like, that situation built skills and leadership that when it was time for him to lead, he was ready. He was ready. So I feel like that was similar. Up to that point, I'm trying to see if I'm leaving anything. Oh, also, like that, also where my nonprofit, Emma's Heart for a Neighbor, came into place, because I just felt like there was a calling regarding social services and serving people. I've always had a heart. I think in the last episode I said I didn't exactly know what I wanted to do except help people. And I thought I was gonna be whatever, a lawyer, be rich by because put all the poor people in it. Working for her in social services and realize the need. And one of the biggest issue there is housing. And I realized a lot of the clients, yeah, they get social work and they get services, but a lot of them had housing issue. And I remember bringing that to her, but she didn't seem to care. So I felt like, well, maybe that's something I'm supposed to handle. So that's also where my nonprofit was birthed, because I felt like I see the need and it needs to be done. So I prayed about it. That's what it was. I prayed about it, and there's some money I had. I used that to do the nonprofit, and it was approved immediately. I remember when it was around the time to get the name, I was driving. Driving, and I hadn't lost my car yet at that point, or maybe I did, and I was driving my mom's car. I don't remember. It was so much has happened. And I was just driving and just crying, and that was the first time I heard the song. You called me out, oceans upon the water, the great unknown where feet may fail. And those words spoke to me. It's like, okay, God, you calling me somewhere where I feel like I'm failing and I don't understand. So Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders. And that spoke so much to me. And I got home and I was sitting on the couch again. A lot has happened on that couch as far as like me thinking. And Emma's Heart for a Neighbor came because it reminded me of my mom, like how she adopted me and she had a heart for her neighbor, because the Bible asks us to love our neighbor. And that same heart, I think, is the heart I have for wanting to help people. And I think is the same paid forward idea behind the nonprofit. So that was also birthed there. And and I think that was that. I left her, and that was the close of another chapter of trusting God all over again, and job hunting, and now understanding, okay, well, I did that, you led me to it. I feel like the nonprofit was the answer in that situation, and building skills in that situation. So what next? By this point, it's like I've seen different things happen where it's like, okay, God does speak, I think. And I'm one of those people, I'm black and white. I'm all in or all out. And I needed to be all in and give it my best shot and fail before I give up. Doesn't mean I didn't feel like giving up, but even when I did, it was hard because there was always some word or a sermon or a post or a conversation that made me feel like I needed to keep walking forward by faith. So I did it the best way I knew how. And that was that. I can't remember exactly years. I want to say when I first quit corporate America, that was, I want to say it was in 2013 or 2000. I was about 24, 25, 26. So between 2015 and 2014. So yeah. And yeah, that's where I will end for this episode. See you guys next time.
Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you put your bell notification on, and don't you forget to share with everybody. Bye.